Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Trang.
Hey, Jaden. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
No, I really appreciate your time. I know we're both very busy, so this has been, I guess, a really long time in the making.
Yeah. Since you rocked up on my doorstep in 2022.
How did we meet? Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about that?
I think this story does need to come out.
100%.
I think we need to highlight the matchmaking skills of Facebook Marketplace.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. So how we met was I was on Facebook Marketplace selling a Rode microphone.
It's probably the one sitting right in front of your face. Right?
Yeah. And you were like, yep, I'm keen. I want this microphone. So then you rocked up on the doorstep and naturally we just got talking like we have been already for the last 30 minutes before we've even started recording.
Nah, it's good. I think we got on really well and I could see, I sort of texted you after because I think we had a really good connection in terms of like what we were talking about. I think you were like, oh, what are you looking to use the microphone for? Well, obviously and naturally, small talk.
Yeah.
Love it. And I was just explaining about the podcast and then you're like, oh, no way. That's something that I'm really into. So
Yeah.
I had to shoot you a message back and reach out. I think that's just the connector in me.
Yeah. Like, you know how Facebook Marketplace interactions are so awkward? Like you go up to the doorstep and then it's just like, yep, cool, here's your cash. And then, I remember we just bridged that because I think we actually added each other on Facebook after that. And then we started following each other on Instagram and
that's it.
It became a legit friendship.
Yeah, 100%. And I've just been following your work and I'm really, really excited to unpack all of it. And for the listeners, I guess, like, tell us a bit about yourself. Like, what do you do, Trang?
I always answer this question differently each time.
It's a hard one.
But, to describe at a high level what I do now, I am a mentor and a speaker for women who want to pivot and build their dream business of impact. So they can fulfill their purpose and their potential and ultimately create a life of freedom and fulfillment. And I know that that's something that, I think hopefully resonates with a lot of the listeners as this is something that you speak on a lot. And I'm sure we'll talk about it in a moment, but that was the journey that I went down. And that was, the values that I discovered were so important to me, even though that wasn't necessarily instilled into me. So, through my own journey of life and my quarter life crisis, that's what I realized gave me fulfillment and gave me so much life. And that's what I want to share and help others experience as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You've got your business statement there or like your your business model or, oh gosh, I'm studying commerce and can't even name what it is. But I love it. And all of that lights me up. I want to touch on the fact that you said it wasn't necessarily instilled in you. Can you talk to us a bit about your upbringing and what that was all like? Obviously, we're both Australian-born Chinese, and I know that pathway can sometimes be a pretty rough one for a few of us. But talk to us a bit about it. What was growing up like?
Yeah, sure. So I am, the daughter of immigrant parents. My parents were from Vietnam, and naturally, parents coming from Vietnam after the war, coming from poverty, they raised me with a huge narrative of let's create a life of security and stability. Like naturally, and they were doing the best they could. They wanted the best life for me and my sister. So that was a huge narrative growing up. So there was a big focus on academia, as you can probably imagine. I went to a private all-girls school in the local area here, PLC. You may or may not be aware of it.
Yes.
So that was the school that I went to. And for my dad, it was like PLC or nothing. Like he was going to work himself into the ground because he just valued that education so much so that we could be set up for, a really stable, secure career. So that was the entire upbringing. Like I did have a very privileged upbringing, and we were talking about this because maybe not all, Asian Australians and immigrants have this, but I did have a very privileged upbringing. My dad has worked so hard. My mum's worked really hard as well. My dad came over here when he was 15, but studied so hard that he got into medicine and is now a doctor. And
smart cookie.
Yeah, and then he's instilled that work ethic into me as well, for sure. And my mum has held the house together. She helps us like stay fed and, you know, keeps the house so nurtured for us growing up, driving us everywhere. But yeah, like that was my childhood. Like it was a very safe, supportive childhood, just with high expectations.
Yeah, what a way to encapsulate, I think, the Asian upbringing, hey?
Yes,
Yeah, I can so relate in terms of, yeah, my dad, he's super hardworking and my mum, like, very entrepreneurial. So you might not see that sometimes in Asian families, which I'm very privileged and grateful to have. And yeah, it's that safe and secure lifestyle that is sort of the discussion on this podcast that I want to bring attention to, because sometimes, yes, it's amazing to be safe and stable and everything, but I think we're in this position, and I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but most of us do have really, really, I guess, big opportunities that we can grasp upon, but we choose to take a safe route. And I think that's something that you talk about as well with your coaching and your mentoring about, you know, pivoting or people who have taken this safe route and want to pivot. So yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. I guess, what was the growing up in that safe lifestyle like for you? Like the career conversations that you were having with parents and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents, like when I was going through high school, getting closer to year 12, choosing different uni degrees to apply for, you know, naturally there were three options of what we could do. You know, I could become a doctor, could become a lawyer, or a disappointment. So I became a disappointment because I didn't want to do any of those things. Oh, my sister's a dentist, so she's absolutely the star of the family. But because like those pathways were so like clinical and like for me very sterile, it feels like so corporate, so professional. And I think by nature, I look back now and I recognize this has been in me the whole time, but I just wanted something a bit more fun, something a little bit more you know, adventurous, that had a bit more variety. So I landed in a place that was kind of in between. Like it was still a respectable, you know, secure pathway, but to me, it was a bit more fun and varied because I was into sports. So that's what got me into the pathway of physiotherapy. And yeah, that's like the pathway that I ended up going down. And, you know, my parents, they evolved as well. And I'm really grateful for this because they're so supportive, especially now. Like, you know, I'm not, spoiler alert, I'm actually not doing physiotherapy anymore. And they're super supportive now. And when I did choose physio, they were supportive then. So like I'm making jokes about like, you know, lawyer, doctor, or disappointment, but they were supportive through that pathway. Yeah.
Was it something that you felt pigeonholed into picking? Like looking back now, would you ever have considered coaching or mentoring, or was it like no, physiotherapy or disappointment?
That's a good question. And my answer to that is I wouldn't have considered anything different, but that is only because I didn't know any different or better at the time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's just such a common theme across people my age as well. You don't know any better. It's the idea of, you finish high school, get the grades that you need or want or must have, and then you go to a really good institution or a really good university, and then you go out into the corporate world, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, you know, you can't blame us, right? Like we would have been 16, 17, 18 years old when we're choosing our career path. And it's like, what do we know about the world at that age?
What do we know about ourselves as well?
Exactly.
And it's like the fact that you knew that you wanted something fun and adventurous, that's already a big step as well. Some people just don't know what sort of profession they want or what sort of vibe they want in their profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just such a hard and difficult path that we have to navigate at such a young age.
Yeah. I look back now, and especially because I've already been through a career change, I'm like, the pressure for us to choose our life, you know, like our husband or our wife in a career path at 18 is just way too much. Like, but you know, that is currently how the education system is set up, and that's currently how it is. But just like how, you know, we're constantly evolving and ever changing as individuals, it is actually coming out. Like the statistics do show that, we're going to be in many careers over a lifetime now. It is there. It's not even like what is common. It's actually what is expected now. Like it's more common than not to have multiple different career paths before we're even 40 years old.
Yeah, 100%. I guess, so from physio, was that like the first outlet that you went straight into? Like you hopped into uni, did your degree, and then started working? Is that how it all worked? Or did you work anything else prior to that?
Yeah, my story was a little bit blended, bit hybrid, and I think that's a reflection of my personality. Like I do love variety. That's one of my values. So straight out of school, I can't remember exactly how this happened because I had I liked sport, but I'd never actually gone to the gym. And at that time I met my boyfriend, and he started taking me to the gym. So like within 1 month I fell in love, and then I decided kind of like randomly almost after 1 month to do a TAFE course to become a personal trainer. So that was the hybrid. Like throughout uni I was working as a personal trainer, and that was also the start of my business like experience, because as a personal trainer you've got to find your own clients, you've got to retain your clients. It is a business in itself. And then when I finished uni, I was already so enjoying personal training and the freedom aspect of it that I actually only ever went into physio part-time. Like I never even did it full-time.
Oh,
Yeah.
very interesting. And it's cool that I guess from a young age still you were still finding these different like opportunities and like you said, variety as like a value. I guess because we are in this system of, you know, like what else is there besides, you know, getting good grades, going to uni and graduating, going to a job. I guess when you were asking prior to the podcast about like the demographic of people that listen to this podcast and everything, I'd say they're people sort of my age or maybe even your age. What sort of advice or tips do you have to break away from that sort of stigma or that linear pathway and that, I guess, the stereotype of you need to go in this direction?
I think the first step is to get to know yourself really well. Get to know what your own values are, like what is important to you in life, because otherwise we'll just blindly follow what is fed to us. Like we'll just blindly follow what the narrative is and what the majority are doing. We'll just climb that mountain that everyone else is climbing. But it does take consciousness, which takes space and reflection and introspection to be like, actually, this mountain that everyone else is climbing, that's not the mountain I want to climb. I actually want to climb that one over there. And that one over there is less trotted on. It's maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit more rugged, but that is actually the one that I want to climb. And even if, you know, parents or friends or media or just society, everything is saying to climb this mountain, I know deep inside of me that it's this one that I want to climb.
Yeah.
And that's the realization that I had. And it took me time because, I finished my uni course and I worked as a physio for a few years. But when it became so clear on my values, then like nothing else mattered anymore. Like the fears of the change, you know, pressure, advice from different people, judgment from different people, that didn't matter anymore because I just knew with so much conviction that it was this mountain that I wanted to climb.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And in such a fast-paced environment as well, you never do get that time to sort of sit back and actually assess what you do value and what you want for yourself as well. I think in a way we're like blindly selfless because we just never take the time for ourselves to just sit down and be like, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
Or is this what parents want? Or is this what society wants from me? Sort of thing. And yes, parents always have your best interests at heart, but maybe that's not necessarily something that is at your best interest. So it's that interesting balance between, like being able to just set aside some time to do that. Do you have any particular activities or exercises that you can do to find those values? I know myself, like I personally and like candidly haven't had that opportunity to sit down and be like, what do I actually want? And I've chatted to so many people, like whether it be industry professionals or people like yourself maybe, and just people of all walks of life, and they've always said, find what you value.
Yeah.
So how do you actually go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And like even taking a step back, sometimes like something that came to my mind when you were talking, Jaden, is, you know, there are trends in the way that the pendulum swings, right? And I know that this whole conversation and the general trend at the moment is like, yeah, follow your heart and walk the path less walked. But also, if you're someone who wants to go to uni and develop those skills and, you know, work in whatever field it is, like whether it's corporate or, I don't know, accounting or doctor or lawyer, like then do that as well. And I want to mention that because I look at my sister, she's a dentist, and she is so happy doing what she's doing. She loves it. She loves going to work. She loves upskilling as a dentist. She loves then clocking off at 5 or 6 p.m., coming home and then watching TV at night. And I'm like, good for you, you know, like go do that. But then for others, and probably many of you listening to this podcast, you may feel that deeper pull, that deeper calling to be different, to do something different. And then if that is you, then yeah, this is for you.
I love that message so much. And I think the narrative of Life with Lamb has changed as well. I think it started off to be like, oh, like F uni, I hate this pathway, you know, nothing should be linear and those sorts of things. And yeah, I do advocate that message, but that's because I'm projecting my own insecurity of not having the best uni experience. And yes, that's actually improved over time because I've put myself out there in positions where I meet wonderful people who want what you just described, who want that stability, and my partner, Issika, she wants that stability as well. And that's amazing. And I think the narrative for Life with Lamb has changed to one where it's like, do something that you love. That's a better message than like, F this, like,
Yeah.
this is not the path you should take and those sorts of things. Because then that means I'm feeding into the idea of, well, this is the path that you should take. This linear path of high school, uni, grad job, that's what you should take. Then I'm feeding into that by saying, no, don't do that at all. It's like, do what you love, but where are the tips to find like what you do love? And it's things like looking within, setting aside time for yourself to find what you like doing, investing time into hobbies and activities that light you up. That sort of thing. So anyway, just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, for sure. Sure, I love that. So now to answer your actual question that you asked. Okay, different, like an exercise that you can do to get to know yourself better, recognize what's important to you and your values. There are so many different ways to go about this, but something that I love personally, because this is what worked for me, this is what ended my quarter life crisis, and you know, no bias, this is what I use to help my clients get real clear and help them go on their path, is looking like going all the way forwards and starting with the end. So going, you know, not even thinking about what do I like now, what do I want to do now, what's the lifestyle that I want now, actually going to the end, and I mean the end, as in the end of our lifetime. So what I do and what I got to experience with my mentor at the time, my life and business mentor, was a deathbed visualization.
Wow.
Which is, it sounds heavy, and yeah, it is, right? But even doing a mini version of it could be as simple as like sitting down and reflecting, like on my last day, when I'm on my deathbed, if I look back over my lifetime and I were to be able to move on with complete fulfillment, complete pride, complete love, then who did I need to become during my lifetime, and what would I need to have done and achieved? So like starting at the end and then working backwards, because like when you do that, there's going to be like no biases. The answer is going to be so clear, and it's going to be so heart led, because when you do that, like who on their deathbed is making decisions or is having regrets based on, you know, what other people thought of them, or what they should have done because that's what their parents said, or what society expected, or, you know, who's got regrets based on their ego, right? No, like it's going to be all heart-based feelings and heart-based reflections, because it's like your last day. So the clarity that comes through that exercise is going to be the most like pure, like heart-led life that you want to live.
That's beautiful. I felt like a wave of clarity. I honestly, yeah, I've never thought of it like that. I feel like I need to, just sit back and explore that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And as heavy as that sounds, I feel like, exactly as you encapsulated it, who in their right mind is going to be thinking, oh, that person over there is going to stare at me because I pulled out my phone and took a selfie.
Yeah, literally.
I'm going to die.
I'm literally dying.
Exactly. I'm literally dying. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, what does one person's judgment matter to what I want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend for this particular exercise, like take space. So don't do it on a bus. Like, don't
On the way to uni.
Don't do it when you're just like walking down the street. Like you're probably best taking at least an hour. You know, if you even have more, then awesome. And even better, like go out into nature, because we just get so grounded and we just feel so clear in nature because there's less noise, there's less interruptions and distractions. And then, work through that process. Do it as a visualization. Write it down if you want. But pretty much we've got to just step away from the day-to-day noise and surface level like survival and surface level management of our life so that we can drop into the creation of our life.
I think, we're so artificial at the moment. Our real world or day-to-day life is so artificial, and never do we get the chance to just stand outside and just sit with our thoughts. So, I love that so much. Talk to us a bit about this existential crisis or your quarter-life crisis, as you've touched on. What was that all like, and how did it all unfold?
Yeah, this is such a whack story. So
I can
everyone
imagine.
buckle in.
Literally.
So it happened like one morning where everything changed. Like it was a very big moment of change and clarity for me. But having said that, I think there was a lot of build up, before that. Like we were talking about before, there was like signs along the way that something wasn't quite right. And we were talking before we started recording. I actually got fired from my first physio job out of uni. So that wasn't a sign, like...
But you did uni and you got the good grades. How could you get fired?
I got a good ATAR.
Yeah.
Like, come on, my ATAR was good. Like, how could I get fired from uni? Fired from my first job? I just didn't make it past the probation period. So clearly... my heart wasn't in it. Like, it wasn't that I did anything, completely outrageous that got me fired, but like I just wasn't performing and my heart wasn't in it. And like, I look back now and it's like, it's so clear why. I would be going into work and I remember from the moment I'd get to work, I'd already be counting down the hours to the end of the day. And like in the mornings before getting into work, I'd be waking up and being like, oh, I have to go into work. And I'd be dragging myself out of bed to go to work. Like all that energy that I was putting out towards my job, no wonder I wasn't performing and no wonder I wasn't someone that they wanted to be part of their company, right? So there were all these signs along the way that something wasn't quite right, but the moments that everything changed was this one particular morning. I was 24 years old, so 4 years ago now, and I'd gone out to go for a run. And when I step out onto the sidewalk, I hear a crunch. And I'm like, what's that? What's going on? I look down and I'd stepped on a snail.
Poor snail.
I always love everyone's reaction because no one would expect that this is what it's
I
about.
thought you snapped your ankle for a second.
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks. This isn't the first time that I've stepped on a snail before. I'm sure we've all, done that accidentally at least once. But for some reason, this particular morning, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I had a long run. It was a 2-hour run. Yes, I was training pretty hard at the time for triathlons. So I had a lot of thinking time. And as I was running, I couldn't help but notice that I felt guilty. Like I felt guilty that me just doing my own thing, living my own life, I'd cause an effect on something outside of me. And in this case, I'd like killed something. So like this was the line of thinking. And over the rest of the run and even the coming months after this incident, I started to just think deeper about this and I started to see the bigger picture of, oh my gosh, I feel so guilty about like my role in like killing something just because I decided to go for a run at that time on that morning. But my life in so many ways was already neglecting different forms of life. Like my life already had such a flow and effect on different consequences that I would never usually think about because I wouldn't see those consequences. Like whether it was the plastic that I was using or the clothes that I was wearing. So this like sent me spiraling into this existential crisis of my life has a really big footprint. You know, like my existence has a really big impact. But at the same time, like I still feel really small. I still feel like super insignificant. You know, I'm just one person. I can never have that much of an impact, can I? Just one person out of 8 billion people. So this had me really torn because I was like, okay, I'm going into work and I'm teaching people how to squat in the gym. I'm teaching people how to do like this as like a wrist exercise for rehab.
Wrist curls.
Yeah, wrist curls. Like grow your like forearm muscles. Yeah. But like, you know, that just started to become really, you know, like meaningless to me. And, you know, we need physios out there. We need personal trainers out there because people do need to get healthy and that can change someone's life. But for me, like the level that I was thinking was like, there is devastation out there happening in the world. Like this is where my mind went, right? Like over the number of months, I went really big with this. Like there is devastation happening out there. Forests are getting cut down. Like wildlife and ecosystems are getting damaged. Oceans are dying because of each individual human's role on this planet. Like just the lifestyle that we're living is causing this ripple effect of consequences. So this was my whole crisis. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I need to become more. I need to do more. And I was like, okay, well, what do? Do I, you know, start a non-for-profit? Do I do charity work? Like, I want to become the best human being that I can be, you know? I want to become like friggin' like the Dalai Lama. Like, I want to become really like good. I want to make a change in this world. And I remember talking to my business and life mentor, and he said something that was so profound. He was like, Trang, you want to make a difference in this world, but what's the best way to make a difference? Like, do you have to be on the front lines to make a difference? Imagine if you were alive during the war times. What would make the biggest difference? Would it be becoming a doctor or a nurse and helping the injured soldiers? Or would it actually be taking a step back and ending the war? And I was like, mind blown. I was like, oh my God, that's it. Like, I don't have to be on the front lines treating the symptoms, like, you know, helping the injured soldiers, you know, working for charities. That's in a way treating the symptoms. I want to actually end the war. I want to get to the root cause of the problem. And what's the root cause of the problem of all this devastation in the world? Well, kind of like me, like I thought I was a good person and I like knew about these things. You know, in school you get taught turn off the lights and don't use too much paper. Like you get taught that you have a footprint. But I never actually truly connected the dots. Like I never emotionally cared. And that's the war. It's like humanity at mass aren't conscious to this. They're not emotionally connected to their heart, to themselves, to each other, to the environment. It's that connection piece. It's that consciousness piece. So that's when I pivoted and then I went into mindset coaching because I was like, if I raise the levels of consciousness of enough individuals, then more individuals can thrive. And then when enough individuals thrive, then humanity can thrive. And then when humanity thrives, then the world will finally get to thrive. So that became my mission. And yeah, I was like, I'm done with physio.
Okay.
I'm done with physio. I'm done with like the coaching. I need to end this war of lack of consciousness. So yeah, that was my quarter life crisis. My life got changed by a snail. Yeah.
I was about to say.
Literally, like,
oh my gosh.
who knew that a snail could change your bloody life?
Just the weight of, everything. Oh my gosh.
I know.
I don't even have a response for that.
Yeah, it's a pretty full-on story, but it just happened so organically. Like, I didn't plan this. But yeah, over I think it was a year and a half. Like, I've just condensed a year and a half into like 5-10 minutes or whatever it was. But yeah, like it started with that snail and then it ended with a career change.
Yeah. I want to touch on the fact that, the heart not being in it as well. I think that struck out to me. Obviously, the snail and everything else that like transcended from that is amazing. And I think like we need to have, I don't know how you come across these moments of where everything just clicks. You know, like for you as the snail, for me, I'm still trying to find that, like what is my clicking moment? And I don't know where people might start to find those things. Like, is it luck or is it the behaviors that you exhibit? Like, does that change or does that bring about change? I sort of just wanted to ask one question and then I just started pivoting over to something else. I wanted to talk about like the heart not being in it, and I wanted to touch on the fact that I went for like a grad role at like a Big Four, and I think to a lot of people and a lot of my friends, they're like, "Wait, what? Like, what? Why are you going for it?" And I was like, "Oh, like, you know, it would be good to see my partner Isika and like explore the world a little bit." And like, yes, some part of that is true, but then deep down, I think, like I didn't actually want to do it. And I did end up getting a rejection letter sent back to me, and I look back at the interview and I know I interviewed really well. I wouldn't have had any problems interviewing, I don't think. I think I'm very extroverted, can speak relatively well anyway. So the interviewing part wasn't the issue, and it was just the idea of your skills and interests didn't align. And it was like the fact that an interviewer could spell that out for me during that interview says a lot about, I think, just not being in the headspace or in the mindset of wanting that role. So it's just like a really interesting theme in terms of, you know, like you went to work and you were counting down the hours. I went into that interview knowing that like I'd spoken so much shit about Big Fours and like the grad opportunities, you know? So it's these things that you just, I think you lie to yourself a little bit about, this is what I want to do. But is it actually what you want to do?
Yeah. I was just laughing because I was just thinking, like, at the bottom of the rejection letter, it's like in asterisks. Oh, we listened to the Life with Lamb podcast and you literally shat on us like just last week. So that is the real reason you're not hired.
Literally, Life with Lamb turns down career opportunities. Hey. But no, like, my heart, like, genuinely, and I'll speak, candidly on the podcast, like, it wasn't in it. So, of course, I'm not, like, worthy for the role.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. I think, you know, this can go down such a big path as well, because I think us high achieving individuals, and I think a lot of the listeners would be high achieving, big dreams, big drive, big ambitions in today's fast paced world means we get to develop two parts of us really well. We get to develop the body part, so the physical part of like taking action, showing up, hustling, working, right? We're good at that generally. We're also generally, especially more recently, we're good at the mind as well. Like we are intellectually smart, we read, we study, and we understand the power of mindset. We understand that it's important to have a resilient mind and to be empowered, right? But there's also a third pillar that I only really discovered after my quarter life crisis, and that is the pillar of the heart, which can be broken into two parts of emotional development, so being in tune with our emotions and being able to feel them and express them, as well as spirituality, which, you know, like some people may or may not be on board with this, and that's totally okay. But to me, spirituality is just being connected to something greater than ourselves, like living for something greater and being connected to, like it's just more than waking up and going to work and coming home at night, but like, you know, being connected to a greater purpose that we serve in this world. That's what spirituality means to me. And that pillar, that development of the heart, like our emotions and our spirit, is a huge part of the consciousness. And like, being aware of when we wake up and we have to drag ourselves out of bed and we're counting down the hours to the end of the workday, like that is a sign that our heart isn't in it. It's not normal. It's not just how it is as an adult. It's not, it's not just how it is. It's a sign that our emotions aren't in it. And actually, like this morning, I was actually rehearsing a keynote talk out loud. You might have seen my story already.
Yes, I did.
So this is a path that I'm carving out for myself now. Like I am getting into keynote speaking. So I've crafted out a keynote and I rehearsed it for the first time out loud today. And I literally got teary rehearsing it out loud, because this is a dream that I've had for so long, And the keynote is talking about purpose. Like it's kind of telling my snail story again. And yeah, it's a powerful story, and it's a message I want to share with the world that like we have so much power as individuals. We can create so much change. We can have so much of an impact. And like that means a lot to me. So I was like getting teary rehearsing this speech out loud, and I'm like, I know that I'm on the right path when I'm literally getting teary of like happiness and like gratitude and love doing what it is that I'm doing.
And you're speaking anecdotally as well, which is just so powerful. Like, and I do want to touch on the imposter syndrome a bit later, but you know, you are your own person, and you're trying to do something that is greater than yourself. And because you're speaking anecdotally and can sort of feed into that, why wouldn't you be invested into it? You know, like, of course your heart's going to be in it, and of course you're going to tear up because you are that passionate about it. So I'm keen to see where that goes, to be honest.
It's happening. But like, you know, this is something that I hadn't ever experienced before. Like I never would have cried of happiness before. I was like, you know, like, come on, I'm a strong person. I don't cry, right? And of course, like that's part of the narrative that gets thrown around, whether you're woman or man. But yeah, like I remember like along the journey as I developed my emotional awareness, I remember running my retreat for the first time. It was like a 2-day retreat. And when I finished the retreat, I was sitting on the beach, just reflecting on like the impacts that I'd had. And I cried for the first time of happiness. Like I was like, especially the beach. The beach always does this to me. Like, like I just sit there, look at the horizon, and I just start crying. Like it happens. But yeah, like I was just like, oh my gosh, I cried for the first time of happiness. Which is, you know, like you don't always have to. Like I guess everyone expresses their emotions in different ways. So I'm not saying that you have to cry of happiness. But I think it was just a sign for me that like I'd been able to develop the full like spectrum of emotions, and I wasn't afraid to express them. And that allows me to like connect deeper to my truth versus like holding a facade or a front for other people.
Yeah, it's so hard. And speaking from like a male perspective as well, that's really hard. And there's such a prominent theme of, you know, men's mental health and being able to actually express yourself and not be like a blokey bloke all the time. And like being in tune with your emotions can be, a really difficult thing, but a very necessary thing as well, especially whether it's like, career related or even just relationship related, like with your friends, family or partners. So super important. Talk to us about your career pivot. You've had your snail moment.
I became a murderer when I stepped
became
on the snail.
What happened after?
Okay, so what happened was I went through that 1.5 years of like quarter life crisis, going into work and being like, my heart's not in it. I want to do more. I want to become more, but I just don't know how. Plus fears, all the fears. Sunken cost fallacy. I've done my uni degree. I've spent, it was like, I think 4 years at the time working as a physio. I was developing a name for myself. I was, good. I was generally good at what I was doing. So there was just like, you know, is it all a waste if I do that? Am I going to regret it? What are people going to think of me? I'm going to go from this like uni, like this master's qualified profession to do mindset coaching. Like what? So woo-woo. Just I'm going to become another 25-year-old who does mindset coaching on Instagram. And that's what, like all these thoughts pass through me. Like, what if I regret it? What if, you know, it doesn't work out? What if it's not financially viable? And then the pivotal moments that got me to go all in was when I went to a retreat with my life and business mentor, and I did that deathbed visualization, the one that I was speaking about before. So that was the first time that I'd done that visualization, and I did the full visualization. So I kind of gave a mini version of it before, but the full visualization is like looking at if you were on your deathbed and nothing changes from now till your last day. If you continue on the trajectory that you're on now, you don't take any more risks, you don't make any new decisions, you just continue down that path, how's life going to look? Or how are you going to feel on your deathbed? And then the stark contrast of on your deathbed, on your final day, if you were to live your highest life, your biggest life, your most impactful life, your dream life, then what would that look like? So that stark contrast just illuminated to me what I needed to do.
Literally.
Because I was like, I cannot be on this path for the rest of my life. I just can't. I cannot. And then on the other side, I saw, this vision of like, if I use my lifetime to make as much impact as possible, the earth would look different. Like humanity would never be the same again. I would be so happy on my last day. So then that became really clear, and it was another pivotal moment. And I know not everyone necessarily has this, but for me, luckily, I guess it was, or maybe not lucky, maybe it was like a year and a half of enough turmoil internally that it got to this breaking point where I was just like, that's it, I'm done sitting on the fence. I'm friggin' done. So then after that deathbed visualization, within a month, I took action. And I rebranded my personal training business to like, what it is now, aligned performance. So, working with people to thrive, not just as athletes, but as human beings. And then, so I did rebrand the business straight away, and I started to restructure my coaching and my programs. And then it still took another year for me to stop physio completely. So I was still doing physio for another year, but I'm really glad that I did it like that, because even though there is a narrative that you like need to quit everything and go all in, the fact that I did it kind of more of that gradual pathway meant that I had so much like abundance of, finances and security, and I could approach this new business and this new pathway with this secure, confident energy versus this desperate energy of like, I need to put food on the table tonight. Yeah. So I'm going to, do anything I can. I'm going to deploy like sleazy marketing tactics. Like I didn't need to do that because I did have that gradual progression. So yeah.
That's where I see the importance of, the financial security, and you see the trend of people who, have work a 9 to 5, but also have their side hustle, like their 5 to 9 or something, the typical, I know it's very corny and everything, but some people.
I haven't heard that before.
You haven't?
No,
okay,
5
fair.
to 9.
There's a few people that advocate it, whether that's like before work or after work. It's
yeah,
up
true,
to you.
True.
But yeah, there's a lot of conversations about that, and that's sort of where my head's at. It's like, well, should I do a graduate role to stay on the safe side of being able to pursue the podcast, but also, have some sort of financial security, because, you do need finances to fund whatever you want to do, and you have to work hard. And whether you're privileged enough to have parents who can support you in that way is a totally different realm and spectrum in itself. So yeah, totally agree with that. It's interesting, the sunk cost fallacy. It's something that I think a lot of uni students really experience, especially when you're switching degree after degree after degree.
Yeah.
And I know in myself, if I had it my way, I would have gone to Japan straight after high school and just like explored that country for what it is and like how beautiful it is. But instead, I've just gone straight into uni, done online uni, and hated my first year. But then what else was there? We had COVID, we had lockdowns and everything. So it's like, I might as well continue. And then it's like this question of like, oh, I might as well, or the statement of, oh, I might as well. And that's the attitude that you have going into it. And it's like, oh, I might as well do that. And then it leads to, your heart not being in it and everything. So yeah, it's really interesting, that theory. And I don't know personally how to navigate it, but do you have any advice or ways to counter that sort of ideology?
Yeah, like that's a huge, ingrained belief that I had to overcome as well when I like finished up physio, because it was the uni part, so 4 years of uni and then another 4 years of work. And like from experience, me being a 28-year-old now, like I'm still, you could say that I'm still young, right? So I look back to like when I was 21, 22, and anyone who's listening, if you're still in uni, oh my gosh, are you like still got so much time of your life? And like, what's a few years of your life of, going down one path and then pivoting when those few years of your life would never actually go to waste? Like those few years of your life have given you friendships, have given you knowledge and skills and experiences that is absolutely going to support you on this new path for sure. And I'm sure you've heard that before. I think a lot of people say that. But I can say that because my physio profession is what has given me the platform and the launch board for my mentoring and speaking. career path now. Because if I look back and connect the dots, there were so many connections and like people who I met, skills that I developed through working with patients, clinical reasoning skills, business skills from personal training, all of that has like lifted me up for what I'm doing now. But another way of looking at it, and this is something that I tell myself, because I'm big on like the career pivot is just one pivot. Like I'm constantly reinventing myself. Like some people look at me and they're like, can you just like sit still for a second? But I'm like, I'm not going to apologize because we have this one life. Let's make the most of this life. Let's live as many lifetimes as we can in one life. Let's experience as much as possible as this human life can offer us. And how I look at it is if we're scared to waste, which is not actually wasting, but
Quote
waste.
unquote.
Yeah. If we're scared to waste like 4 years at uni, like what's that compared to sticking out whatever path that we're on for the rest of our life and then wasting the rest of our life? Like that's how I see it. Like what's more important, what's already done or what's yet to come?
Yeah, I love that so much. And the reflection part resonates a lot. And I look at uni and I actually really enjoy it because I've met some of the best people ever. Like the amount of connections and experiences that I've had, I can cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it became less about, oh, let's get a degree so we have a secure job, and more about like, who are the people that I'm going to meet and spend the rest of my life with, sort of thing. And it's a really beautiful thing that I've started to come to realize recently because, it's my last semester next term or in a few months, like it's my last semester. And I look back and don't, I'm not like, oh, like I learned about that sort of thing. It's like, these are the friends and these are the people that I'm like sort of indebted to, like they're so amazing and I love each and every one of them so much. Like they've made my time at uni a lot better than what it could have been. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we got smashed
like
up at
3 a.m. and we're just like stumbling down the street. Like those are the moments that stick with you.
Not even that. Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, you don't have to be smashed, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
gosh,
the moments.
Trang, seriously. I
don't even drink, but anyways.
Fair enough. I guess you touch on the idea of your business and life coach a lot. When did you meet them and where did the idea come from? I think there's a new revelation of, you mentioned before, all the 25-year-old life coaches that are coming up. Yeah. And I do see that a lot. Like, obviously, Life with Lamb has this message about, life and career trajectory. So, of course, my page that I, like my explore page or whatever it is on Instagram, like life coaches do pop up and a lot of coaches do pop up as well. Do you need one? Do you think you need one? Or do you think that you can be self-sustainable?
Yeah. I'm going to be biased because I attribute so much of my like business success to the mentors that I've worked with and like, formal mentors. Like I've paid them, I've done one-on-one with them, I've gone to retreats, I've done their group programs and like, cause I'm one myself. So I am biased in that like I see the incredible results from, having that support, that accountability, that guidance. But like I am going to say, you don't have to have a specific mentor or coach who you work with and you pay them through that formal like transaction. Like really what's happening here is that we are surrounding ourselves with people who elevate us. Like that is the secret recipe, right? Secret ingredient. Like that's what's really happening. It's like we're bringing people in our life. And, generally if you're working with a one-on-one mentor, they're going to be very close and intimately by your side. But all it is we're shifting our environment and who is in our ear and who is by our side along our journey. And that in itself, like, shifting our environment and our sphere of influence, that is the key. Like that is going to make or break our path, and I really do believe that.
Yeah.
Like if we want to become an entrepreneur, if we want to become like a successful e-commerce business owner, like whatever it is, we better make sure that we've got someone, at least someone, more multiple someones in our top 5 who are already on that path, are already there, who are just ahead of us on that journey. Because there is so much value from learning from those. And not just learning, but being inspired, being supported, shifting our sense of normal, shifting our belief systems about what's practical and what's realistic and what's, possible.
Yeah.
Versus if we've got only the opposite, people who are like, oh, why would you do that? Maybe it's just safer if you, like if we are constantly getting fed that narrative, then that will break where we want to go.
Yeah, amazing. And it goes back to that saying, like, you're a product of your own environment. Like,
Yes.
I'm a testament to that. And I love that saying so much because, yeah, you are. And we sit here as, I guess, like entrepreneurs, or people who want to break the norm, talking about it. And, like, that's how we met. That's how we connected. That's why we got on so well, like, off Facebook Marketplace, But then it's like I'm a product of my own environment in terms of like my dad's hard work ethic. Like he's just a bull pretty much. Like he just works and works and works and I get that from him. And then my mum who's entrepreneurial and like a connector, like a social butterfly pretty much you can say. And I get that from both of them. So it's like you are a product of your own environment. So surround yourself with those people that you can either learn off of or bounce off of. And I think, what a better way to do life, I guess there's the flip side of like the toxic of like, when does it become like they're becoming your yes men? Have you ever experienced that before?
As in like if they just like supporting you no matter what kind of thing?
Yeah, sort of thing. And it might not be leading down like a necessarily good path. Has that ever come across your palette?
Yeah. I think like that's where, being conscious and intentional about who we spend time with and not just like yes friends or yes people, but people who are like, will challenge us and be honest with us. I think that is a key thing. And that's what actually I promise to my clients when I work with them. And I would want from my mentors is like, we have this honest relationship and the honest partnership. And like you reflect to me what you're feeling, what you're thinking, but also because everything's a projection, it's like you reflect to me and like what you might think of my decisions, but then also being aware that like that is still a projection and then it's still me who's got to run my own life. But having variety as well is going to be a benefit of not being in a echo chamber.
Yeah.
And having a variety of people from different walks of life, like friends, different mentors, is going to allow us to see in more 3D.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because as soon as you mentioned the like surrounding yourself, like your top 5 people, I immediately thought of Issika because she's doing this med pathway. So it's a complete juxtaposition between like what I want to do and what she wants to do. Like she is going to be studying for a very long time and she's going to be earning a lot of money in a corporate sort of setting. And I love that for her. I love that so much. And that's something that she wants to do. I don't see eye to eye with her with that. And then that's actually been a recent conversation that we've had between the two of us, which I was really grateful for actually. Like, we sort of saw eye to eye about how she didn't necessarily see how this might have been something that's like proficient or like viable in the future, but the different values sort of collided. So it's like nice to have people who challenge you. She definitely challenges me a lot with this, but in like a positive way. It's not like this isn't going to go anywhere sort of thing, but it's like, maybe consider this, which is what you said, which could be a red flag, but I think it's her way of being like, this is my stability. And I don't sort of see eye to eye. So it's like, it's nice because we get to challenge each other. And I'm saying, no, like I meet really cool people off this, like yourself. Like I meet so many cool people who reach out and actually want to be part of this conversation of, do something that you love.
Yes.
And then she can see that as well. So it's just like, it's nice. I don't know if I explained that in a good way, but.
No, that's so good. That's such a good example. Like, being around a variety of people, including people who live the opposite life as well. Because, like you can have those robust conversations and then that might like bring up points that you hadn't considered earlier. And then it may strengthen your decisions and your path even more. Or maybe it will like, just expand you to see a different perspective. Like it's going to be so valuable no matter what.
Yeah, you need people who challenge you, but you also need people to learn and sort of bounce off.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I love that point. One What's next for you, Trang? I'm just mindful of time.
Yeah,
I could talk all day. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, this is so much fun. Always so much fun. What's next for me? It's interesting because this year has not gone the way that I expected at all. So like I remember at the end of last year, because I love what I do. So for me at the end of last year, 2023 was going to be the same as 2022, but more expanded. So more of what I was already doing. So like my one-on-one mentoring, my retreats, my group programs, it brings me so much fulfillment. I was going to do more of that. And then I was going to carve out my keynote speaking pathway. So that is still what I'm doing. But there's this new added element this year. We were speaking before, but this is the first time I'm going to actually share this out loud on a podcast. But I recently separated from a 9-year relationship. And, you know, I'm all good and everything. I keep saying that life and self-actualization and relational development is imperfect. Like it's messy, it's non-linear, but it's imperfectly perfect. That's how I see it. And like this is all part of our journey of like discovering ourselves and discovering what we need and how we can relate to each other in the best way possible. So it's all good. But yeah, because of that, I'm now going on an adventure. So the reason why we're recording, well, not the reason why we're recording today, but we needed to fit this in is because I'm going, I bought a one-way ticket to Bali. I'm going to spend a month there. And then after that, who knows? Like, I don't know where I'm going to go after that. But I know for sure that I definitely want to go to India. I'm just so drawn to India.
There's
the
something
culture,
about that place. Yeah.
Yeah, the culture, obviously the economical difference, the spirituality over there. I think there's just so much to learn and so much development to come from that. So I'm going to go for an adventure. Like that is one of my like core values, like life is an adventure. But then I'm also still going to be working on my own growth and development as a mentor, as a speaker. So it's going to be a combination of that for me. Even though I hadn't planned on going for a solo adventure this year, but it was something that I feel like I've been pulled towards doing for a while. And I think that's part of it as well. So
we'll have to do a catch-up episode because there's so much chat about, like, oh, go out, explore the world, find yourself, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely yet to experience it. So yeah, it's definitely something on the cards, I reckon. Just go see the world. I had this revelation like a few days ago while studying. I was like, oh, I just want to go out. I just want to go see the place.
Yes.
Like, see the
go
world.
to Japan.
Exactly. Literally just travel the world sort of thing. So yeah, we'll have to catch up. But keynote speaking as well, is that still on the cards for you?
Yeah. So that's something that I'm like pushing at the moment. So I do speaking for like companies and stuff, but I want to go like big. I want to go like on stage, Tony Robbins style, in front of like thousands of people. So I'm in the process of that, crafting out the speeches and creating all the bits and pieces that are required to really pursue that. So one of them is like creating a sizzle reel. It's like a video trailer that's advertising yourself essentially.
Yeah, cool.
I don't have that. So I'm really like pushing that and working on that project at the moment. And yeah, like stay tuned. We'll see where that goes later this year.
I love it so much. We're coming to the end of this episode. Very sad. I'll definitely have to get you on for another one because I just think a lot of the themes that you talk about are so relevant to a lot of us sort of younger people or even people, I guess, like your age and above.
What are you saying? You're saying
no, I'm not saying you're old. Okay, I'm not trying to phrase it that way.
Joking.
I think just anyone, like in terms of like it's not too late to change and why live life in a mundane way doing something that your heart isn't fully in.
Yeah.
And I know that might be naive in a way, or maybe that's just judgments of people coming onto me, but I don't know. I just can't see a life where I'm doing something and I don't fully enjoy it.
Yeah, like I think, if I were to like say anything to wrap up, it's like just looking at our world today. We're in 2023 and it has never been easier. There's never been more opportunity. There's never been more abundance to simply pursue our heart's calling. Like, how we had the Industrial Revolution? Well, people are talking about the entrepreneur revolution. Like, that is where we're going. Look at the size of the economy. Like, I was talking about this morning. The Australian economy is like $2 trillion. American economy is like 22 trillion. There's so much money being circulated. There isn't a shortage of any of this. Like there isn't a shortage of opportunity. There isn't a shortage of money that can flow your way if you were to start your own business or do your own thing. Like in our online world, we can start a business for free. That's how I started. I just started with an Instagram account. So there is just so much opportunity now. And I know that I am speaking from a privileged position as well, because I started all this whilst I was still living with my parents and had support. But yeah, like, you know, it's possible. So why not see the possibilities and the opportunity? And it's never too late. Like I was actually just thinking before, I recorded an episode for my podcast recently, and I was interviewing.
Feel free to plug. Feel free to plug.
Yeah, shameless plug. The Aligned Performance podcast. But the reason why I bring this up is actually because I genuinely recorded an interview that I was so inspired by. It was with a woman who was 76 years old. She's still doing podcasts, and she published her first book at 72 years old. Now at 76, she's just published her second book. And her whole thing is like, it's never too late to transform. She's gone through many reinventions of herself over her lifetime. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like fangirling over you right now. Like, I love this. So yeah, I mean, if she can publish her first book at 72, I think we can all pivot and we can all, follow our true path in our 20s, our 30s, 40s.
Beautiful. That's amazing to summarize, I reckon. Trang, it's been a pleasure and a very enjoyable time speaking to you on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to follow Trang, all of her socials and her podcasts will be in the show notes below. But yeah, be sure to follow at Life with Lamb podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Yay!
Yeah.